Ali, tell me, there's so much. Your history is tied in with Washington's history to such a great extent. But tell me how you came to D.C. and why you came to D.C. originally.
I was born in Virginia. My dad had a 350-acre farm. So I spent some time in Richmond at Virginia Union University, and I wanted to come to the big city. And my mother's sister and her family lived here, so I had an immediate residence. And they brought me there, deposited me with my aunt and her family, and I wanted a job. So I looked around. I filed applications in various places. She worked in the federal government, which was the thing to do at that time.
Right.
It was security for the rest of your life. And I applied, first of all, at Industrial Bank because I met a young lady that worked at Industrial Bank. And I was called immediately. So I spent my initial time at Industrial Bank. I worked there under the grandfather, the original co-founder of that bank. And then, of course, Ben had come from Trinidad. My husband, had come from Trinidad.
Husband-to-be.
Yes, at that time, to matriculate at our universities, and he was first at the University of Nebraska in Lincoln, and then came on to Howard Dental School. Well, I didn't know him at the time, but he'd worked, I think he was in dental school for a little over a year. Walked onto an elevator one day, the floor wasn't there, he injured himself severely, and he did not complete that program.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, but by the time, Trinidad currency, even today, takes $6 Trinidad to equal $1 US. So, although his parents were supporting him as best they could, he still worked his way through college.
Sure.
By working in restaurants.
And then he came to Industrial Bank?
He came to Industrial Bank because he's working in the community. So he came to Industrial Bank and he was waiting for me to serve him. I noticed 3 days in a row. And I noticed the other girls weren't busy. He's still waiting for me. And I thought he was kind of cute, but on that third day, he wrote a little note and said, "Please call me," and signed his name. Of course you didn't call a guy you didn't know.
Right.
This was late 1956.
Right.
You didn't dare, so I wouldn't try to call. But he, being very sure of himself, called when the bank closed at 2:30. He called by 2:45, asked to speak to me, and "Why didn't you call me? This is Ben Alley. Why did you kidding?" I said, "I don't know you, sir. I don't call men I don't know." And he said, "Well, what would you like to know?" And then, being the talker he was, he just rattled his whole life about him having gone to University of Nebraska, about where he came from. And when he got to the part that said he had been a student at Howard Dental School, I thought, wow, I know the folks up there. I said, "Do you know Dr. Joe Henry?" "Yes." "Do you know Basil Keene?" "Yes," and a few others. And, well, I thought it's safe now to give him my home phone number. So I gave him the home phone number, and he called that evening and asked to take me to dinner. And I suggested that he have one of our mutual friends accompany him to my home and meet the family, which he did. And the rest is history.
The rest is history, the beginning of a beautiful relationship.
Yeah, we had 51 years together.
That's wonderful, wonderful. That's great. So 51 years of marriage. Then at some point you all decided to open Ben's Chili Bowl. In short order, it opened in 58, right?
Opened in 58, yeah. We dated for a little over a year and became engaged, and he wanted to be self-employed. He really wanted to be self-employed. I really didn't know anything about the restaurant business, but I was willing to take that chance. I was deeply in love, and I thought this would be a fun kind of thing. So where on earth would you open a business? Well, U Street. If we could find something in this community, because this was our African-American community. It was segregated even then.
Right.
And we're like, can we find a place here someplace? 9th Street is there, 7th Street, U Street. U Street was Black Broadway.
Right.
And we were fortunate enough to be walking down the street one day, and Mr. Harry Beckley, who owned this property, he was also Washington's first African-American detective.
Oh,
yeah.
I didn't know that. I'm learning something here.
So we just saw him, and we had a conversation, and we talked about wanting to open a business someplace, and he said, "Let me show you my place." This was an old silent movie theater built in the early 1900s. called Minnehaha. Then they built the Lincoln Theater some years later, and this, of course, became obsolete. So Mr. Beckley owned it at the time that we were able to lease it, and he was operating it as a pool hall. So we were able to lease the property, and when I think back about this, Tony, and realize that we were able to find the architect, the contractor, the plumber, the electrician, and the cabinet maker right in the neighborhood.
That's amazing.
It's amazing.
And wonderful.
And wonderful. I could call that plumber at 2 o'clock in the morning if we had a problem with a burst pipe. He would get out of bed. This cabinet maker that built this very counter right here and those booths did his last repair job on them at age 80. They're all gone now. But it was an amazing time. We were their clients, their customers, for the duration of their career. And now I look at this and I need a plumber, I call a number and it says, we'll get back to you in 24 hours.
It's a very different thing. It's a very different thing.
Yeah.
So many people know the story of Ben's Chili Ball. You recently celebrated your 60th anniversary here. Same spot all this time. And you have seen the neighborhood go through so many changes. I know it's an often told tale, but this was really the heart of where the riots happened in 1968.
Absolutely.
You all managed to stay open and survive. How did you do that, and why did you do that?
Well, first of all, we had been here 10 years by that time, so we were pretty well settled and readily accepted by our community. And we were, we knew we wanted to be a community-based place. So this was home to a lot of the young people that were living in the neighborhood. And the civil rights movement was really vibrant at the time, especially leading up to the riots. Lots of was going on. I remember when they had the March on Washington, we were able to provide some food for those that came in really early. It was just a very, very frightening time, stressful time, because you don't know what's going to happen. You're on television, you're looking at what's happening in the South. And then finally, when someone dashed into that door and said Dr. King had been shot on April 4th, 1968, it was not believable. This nonviolent servant of ours, our leader, couldn't be. Then someone else comes and someone else, and finally someone finds a transistor radio, and they're playing hymns. He's gone. Well, now the tears were everywhere. Everybody's just absolutely, terribly distraught and sad. And then some hours later, those tears turned to frustration. Frustration turned to anger, and the uprising began. It was severe. We're right here. We're seeing flames. We're seeing looting. We're seeing gangs of people just running. And the National Guard was called in. Mayor Washington put in a curfew. We were the only place, Tony, that was allowed to remain open during that 3-night curfew period. And we were open during those days until 2 o'clock in the morning and 4 on weekends. So that provided a place for our first responders, for the police department, for city officials, even activists. It was kind of a safe, well-lighted place to go that was loved even at that early age.
In the midst of all of that.
Yeah, in the midst of all that. But it was really scary. It was really scary. I remember having a touch of that gas in my eye. Yeah, just that burning sensation. Yeah, it was scary.
So you stayed open, obviously. You stayed open during the construction of Metro, which really was disruptive to the neighborhood.
Oh, the worst kind of disruption.
Yeah, in some ways that was...
that was worse than anything.
Yeah.
Because there was no access. There was not one car on that street. There were only 3 businesses that survived, because after the riots, the businesses didn't open again.
Right.
Middle class moved away. A few years later, heroin moved in, then crack moved in. And it was a difficult time, but only 3 businesses in the immediate vicinity hung on. That was Industrial Bank, Lee's Flower Shop, and Ben's. So I said, you know what, we can't close. We'll have to stay open. I had one employee with me during that time. His just one. And when the sun set, we went home because there were no street lights out there. Yeah.
That, to me, you know, it speaks of a great love for the family business, for your employees, but also for this community. Because that's a hard thing.
Exactly.
To keep a business open when there are no customers. They can't get to you. Why do you have such great love for
Well,
this
you
city?
know, I love the community, and I've been so well appreciated and respected in the community, number one. But number two, this is the nation's capital. It's got to come back. We'd waited 20 years, because this is 1988 when they started to build that subway. But I always felt like this is the nation's capital that literally runs the world. Surely our community will not be like this forever. I just didn't think it would take 20 years. 20 years it did take, and when they decided to build that subway, they just took away the entire street. They dug 65 feet down to build their track. And we were able to survive. We were, just that one employee and me, she's still with me. She's been with me for 41 years. Not every day anymore because she's got some issues, but yes, it's been an experience.
When you see what U Street has become now, a vibrant community, it's going through some major changes, but you've got numerous businesses, you've got the Lincoln Theater, you've got, you all were able to expand to Ben's next door. Tell me what you love about this community now.
Well, the community has always been there for us, you know, and I've always said that over and over again. We had so much support here, and we supported the community, you know. There was someone there to help me. I mean, the little things. I could drive down here at night if my husband was in Trinidad. I could drive down here at 10 o'clock at night. Someone said, Miss Ben, I'll park your car. And there were always people, friendly people around that knew me that said, Miss Ben, I'll park your car. Miss Ben, I'll walk you to the bank. Miss Ben, I've got your back. That's priceless, right? Exactly. So the neighborhood now, it was just amazing to me to see the change, to see someone moving in that I'd not known before. When that subway opened, I had a big banner across the front of it and had a crane put it up there that said, "We survived Metro." Yeah, that was a survival. and the first new business moved in, I believe it was Hollis Pizza, Buffet or something. The first new business moved in, and the second, and the third. The townhouses covered up those boarded up properties over here that was Children's Hospital. A big, beautiful apartment up the street called the Ellington. And over on this side, the back of the big building called 2020 12th Street. Fabulous condominiums. I've been told that one of the units on the top floor was sold last year or a couple of years ago for $1.3 million.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so we have a whole new neighborhood, lots of new restaurants, lots of new businesses, and more importantly, young, educated people moving in. I gotta live long enough, Tony, to see what they do with it. Really.
Oh, you will.
I hope so. I'm 85, you know.
I have complete faith in that. Let me ask you, since you met your husband here, you raised your family here, let's talk about some of your favorite places in Washington. We were talking earlier, during your dating days, you used to frequent some of the jazz clubs.
Oh yes, the Bohemian Caverns. You know, you're walking in that cavernous atmosphere, and Ramsey Lewis, or one of our big, oh my goodness, there's nothing better than that. There were clubs like the Hollywood down on 9th Street. There were just so many beautiful clubs. And then when you're integrated, you could go downtown, and after a while you go downtown to the Presidential Arms and have your big events instead of having them at our Lincoln Colonnade over here. You know, Carter Barron was one that came up that we so loved, and I remember so vividly being there when Diana Ross and the Supremes performed. Yes. You know, I've seen Harry Belafonte and the Howard Theater. It's just been a wonderful, wonderful experience for me.
You mentioned the Carter Barron. I have such great memories, such a beautiful you know, for those who don't know, it's an amphitheater. It's in disrepair now, I believe, but an amphitheater where you could see everybody. Like you mentioned Diana Ross and the Supremes, Smokey Robinson and the Miracles, Shaka Khan.
Oh yeah.
You mentioned Diana Ross. Are there other shows that you remember that you loved?
Well, let's see. There were so many, Tony. There were so many there. Didn't I see Ray Charles up there? I believe I did. The memory doesn't serve me as well as it used to.
That's okay. That's okay.
But I was there many evenings.
Yeah.
Many evenings, and it was such a lovely setting.
Are you a Rock Creek Park fan?
I love Rock Creek Park. I actually live in a little bit of Rock Creek Park. Yes, they've got a big foundation now to try to keep it cleaned up, and I think this is the only city in the world with a park right in the middle of it.
Right.
Isn't it beautiful?
It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous.
You don't have to go to New England to see the fall foliage.
It's right here.
That's right here.
Right here. When you think of Washington D.C., what do you think about? What are some of the images and the places that you think about?
Well, you know, I like the diversity here, especially now. We've got people from every corner of the globe, and now restaurants from every corner of the globe. And I just love that setting. I love the museums, the Smithsonian, the Air and Space Museum. I love our new African American Museum, the diverse churches. You know, we've got, to me, the DMV has everything. I really think so.
And Ben's Chili Bowl has survived for 60 years, tough times. Did you ever think, you've always had your regular customers, people who visit, but did you ever think that it would become a tourist attraction?
No. No, I certainly didn't. And yesterday, was it yesterday? Yesterday we had a chef here from London that has a renowned chef that has his own show on TV. So he came to film here in Ben's Chili Bowl. We shared a sandwich together. He had the chili hash brook, I had the beef dog. And we shared that, and it was filmed with a bunch of cameras to be shown back in London. We've had China back there bringing their best comedian, their best singer, and their best dancer, and film a segment of their show in that background there. So we really are truly blessed.
It's amazing.
And I had no idea, because it's really just a hot dog place.
But a world famous hot
But
dog place.
I love it, and people have been kind, but people treat you the way you treat them. And I've always loved people. Sometimes I'm feeling a little down and tired or something. Just get up, take a shower, put on something, and walk in this door.
That'll do it.
And that'll do it. I'm so happy to see people.
You're a blessing to the city. You really are.
Thank you.